easily map out those coordinates, right? Because he's super perceptive of everything that's going on with he's drunk. So we'll see how useful he really is. Ollie, could you roll for me a survival check with those coordinates? Anybody else actually good at doing this sort of a thing?
Yeah, actually I am.
Because survival isn't intelligence based.
No, it's wisdom based.
Probably very bad at this.
Mm-hmm.
Scott says no. Okay, I guess if Kieran gave the list to Stalbor, he absolutely would do this. There you go.
Okay. So Stalbor starts breaking down the numbers and everything, Kieran, and finding out like, okay, no, I've got this. I understand exactly what they're doing, and more or less he has a map in his mind of where it is you guys are supposed to go. Kieran, he's going to give you advantage on your actual survival check to plot through here.
Mm-hmm. So should I do it now?
Yes, with advantage.
Okay. Because I already rolled the survival check.
Oh, I didn't even see that. I'm so sorry. I was looking at...
I rolled higher.
Okay, cool. I was looking at your faces.
If I didn't roll as high, it would be a problem.
Big problem. Be so angry. All right. So you actually look around and you're listening to his directions, listening to his math, the way he's like describing things and whatnot. You're able to follow it very easily and heading over towards the camp. As they said, it is a couple days travel from where you are. As you enter these woods and are traveling through them, your pace at first is actually pretty decent because you're walking on the road, but then quickly you come off of the road. The woods here aren't like the typical woods you would say in North America, or specifically in like the New Englandish area or coniferous forests, where it's like a bunch of tall trees that are relatively sparse and easy to travel through. No. These trees have lots and lots of thick bushes that grow underneath them. As a matter of fact, the amount of bushes that you see growing underneath them almost seems like they shouldn't be able to, because the canopy of the trees themselves would be blocking most of the light getting to them to allow them to grow. And then them growing in that density so close to the base of the trees would strangle out the roots of the trees and kill them. But despite the fact that seems like it shouldn't be a thing with, conventional thinking for three of your characters, Stalbor, you've actually seen parts of deep woods like this before. You know that when this happens, there's something more than just nature here. There's something just a bit more to make it so. So you guys eventually, as I said, have to take your way off the path and go through these woods. Kieran, you're doing an amazing job of navigating. After half a day's travel, you of course have to pull up camp and whatnot. Do you choose any particular type of camp area that you want to get to? Like anything specific that you're trying to find? What are you favoring?
I don't have a preference for it. I would ask Stalbor. It's like, what do you think? What is safer?
If we're going in quite a straight line, I would move slightly off to the north first in case he sends someone else afterwards. We don't want to step on any toes or anything, or anything else that's going on, just slightly out of the way.
Okay. So, yep, you guys just want to, like you said, just try to make yourself, you can't be seen as easily. You're looking more for cover than you are, say, like comfort or whatever. And so you're able to do that.
Absolutely.
Yep. So you're able to find yourself into an area where it's like you're kind of inside of a bit of a, not quite a foxhole, but definitely a divot, like a little lower part of the ground where a decent amount of bushes and brush and whatnot grows around you. After that first half day of kind of like getting yourselves ready or whatever, you notice, oh man, oh god, the mosquitoes out here are ginormous. They are miserable. It is not very comfortable. As a matter of fact, could everybody roll me a will save?
Eek.
Reminds me of home. Bugs all over the place.
Oh.
So, Stalbor and Kieran, both of you guys are used to dealing with lots of bugs and whatnot. Stalbor, from you being in the growing up in the woods. Kieran, from the time that you've spent at sea and at docks and whatnot, surrounded by tons of nasty flies. You've also docked up in many wooded ports and whatnot before. However, Luca, who comes from the land of undead, and Reich, who comes from the cold, blasted lands of Dargun, they're not as familiar with things like mosquitoes constantly buzzing around and sucking on their necks and whatnot. It puts you guys definitely into a dour mood, and makes sure, like, lowers your morale and makes it so you're really not happy with the continuing of this travel.
Luca's like separated himself. Like while we're camped, he's separated himself from the group, and he's like casting sword bursts, trying to kill all these fucking bugs, just like constantly. He's just like, just hoping for the best. It's not working. They're too dexterous.
Actually-
They're flies. Like,
Scott, I'm not sure if this would help, but I would at least attempt to use save face in this situation to increase the save by 3.
Yep. Actually,
That
so
would-
you would save face.
Yes. So even though I'm very uncomfortable, Reich does not show it. He refuses to let them know that he is that this is not his area of expertise. He just doesn't like people to see how uncomfortable
Luca's
he is.
being a whiny twat.
Ah,
Yeah,
nice.
like Luca, for once, do not be a little bitch.
They're not biting you. Do you see these marks?
Oh, Luca, we forgot to tell you. There's orcs that live in this forest that hate you hurting it.
He like shakes his head and he's like, but they're getting stuck under my armor. Ugh.
Okay. So you guys get up from the short rest and you continue pushing forward. As you're making your way onward, suddenly, not suddenly, it's not like it happens, but like over the course of the next few hours, the quality of land starts to change slightly. It goes from very dense forest to dense and damp. Your footsteps start to have a bit more sponge into them. The trees themselves have a bit more slick to them. The light, even though of course it's starting to fade after a while as the day starts to wane, the light is darker anyways. And then right around when you guys are planning to make your next camp, where you're gonna rest for the evening, you start to get that smell, that pungent, thick, musty, what's the word? Methane rotting smell. And you realize exactly how close to a swamp that you are. Stalbor, realizing how far he has to go, and the Kieran as well, and the calculations of where you need to continue going, you realize, oh, we're going into the swamp.
Okay, maybe they just fell in the swamp and died. Maybe you were right, right?
Well, I have no issue
all
with
three parties of people, they not all fall in the swamp and die.
I do not have any issue with traversing through the swamp. However, I fear that Luca, you might have some trepidation in doing so, given and I tap on his armor. Men like you tend to drag down into the swamp.
He's gonna look around and say, how deep's the swamp?
I look at him like very seriously, be like, well, given my expertise of the area, I would estimate about 7 feet. I don't know.
Why don't you find out? How tall are you? And he like looks you up and down.
We're not gonna find out because we're not gonna go like.
Yeah, no one's
Testing
going
that.
swimming in the swamp. Do you know what a swamp is, Luca?
Well, yeah, but you said we want to trek through the. I'm confused.
There's always patches of land in swamps. We just have
Yeah.
to take a very...
He points to Reich. Tell Reich that.
Here's what I would suggest. Perhaps I can make I could cut a small path ahead of you, not far, not even out of sight, but just enough to make sure if it gets deep at any point, I'll be the one being taken under. I have the fortitude to save myself if something were to happen, and the lack of armor not to be dragged down to the depths.
I don't think I'll be dragged anywhere, but sure. If that will make you happy, Reich. He's like still miserable.
If you would prefer to lead the way, Luca.
He's like, no, have that.
All right.
Actually, let me do it because I can manipulate the water. So.
That
That's the only
stands to
one,
reason.
sister.
So
And then we would be quick behind. To
So
save
you
her.
guys at this point are not in the swamp. You're kind of discussing plans for tomorrow. You're going to take your long rest now and rest for the day. So I mean, as you guys are going down for your long rest, is there anything that you would like to do in the this amount of time? Anything that you'd like to look into, discuss, etc., etc.?
I'm gonna tell Stalbor that he's bordering on being drunk and I only deal with sad drunk. So fix himself.
Well then.
Well, I only have half a bottle of wine to go through this entire forest, so eventually I'll become sad hungover.
Perhaps you could just be not drunk.
Then I would be very, very sad.
I prefer sad to the stallboar you have become.
Intervention.
I'll keep note of that. Sabo says, not noting anything down.
I just stare at you expectantly. It's like, where's the note, motherfucker? I take out my own notebook and I write it down. Throw that stallboar.
It's
Noted.
a brand new composition notebook too. It's like he hadn't even broken the binding yet, and he just wrote it and threw you a brand new book. It's nice. It's nice.
You fucking tuck that away for later.
All right.
No, I guess while we're sleeping, I would cast alarm just in case anything's.
Yeah, and I never
weird.
really sleep anyway, so we're fairly safe.
It's pretty much like the way we always do it is I would take first watch and then he only does transfer 4 hours, so then from there he can just take the rest of the watch.
Yeah.
So there's no reason not to do that. So he just gets the full full sleep. He gets his spells back. I go to bed and then we do a full like 12-hour cycle, or I guess 10 hours if we do like 6 hour for long rest.
Math. Awesome. So I am going to, DM poke and remind you of what happened at the end of last session. You had a conversation with a guy, and he sent you on a quest, and
He gave us stuff.
hey, a bag of goodies.
What was given?
Well, what did he give us?
Remember, he gave you a bag full of
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
didn't see what they
He
were.
gave
and he handed
Stalmore
it
a
to you.
bag. Oh,
Yeah, like
shit.
Stalmore
Yeah.
has the bag.
and it felt lighter than he
Penny.
thought it would with
Bag
how
of
much stuff he
holding.
threw in there.
Let's just say Reich had that bag.
Right, you have the bag.
Right during his watch takes out the bag and examines it.
Awesome. Reich,
What's
you
in
find
here?
a whole bunch of different types of bits and baubles and whatnot inside there. You actually find a couple of different wands. You find a few. Do they look like beads that go on necklaces? There's even a couple of drops of water that, like, as you're kind of like emptying the bag out, they literally drop like dewdrops of water drop down. You almost like lose it as it like lands in another piece of equipment, starts rolling off of it. When you pick it up and you kind of like play with it, it's literally like a bead of water that you can like play with between your fingers. There's 2 cloaks inside of there. There's a helmet. Like, there's a whole bunch of just different things that happen to be inside this bag. One of the things that you notice is that, much like Mary Poppins, the bag can hold more than you would have expected. You're looking at the size of the sack and everything, and you stick your arm in, and your arm goes deeper than you would have expected to do so.
So I would lay all the things out very methodically, based off of what sort of purpose I think they serve. And then when Stalbor awakens, I would kind of gesture to the pile of things, being a little bit more terse than usual with Stalbor. I would say, "There's a group of magical items here. If you would find the time, I would appreciate it if you examine them and see their use."
I'll save my magical energy if we're going into a swamp, and I'll give him a good look.
I nod and then go to bed.
I'll
Okay.
do a good old investigation on him.
Give me the old
Do you
investigation.
have detect magic that you can do as a ritual or no?
Oh, I have to take magic. I can do that as a ritual.
Sure.
I imagine that would be part of the investigation.
Yeah. So we'll do the roll for you in a second. So looking over all of the items and casting of your detect magic, you can see that all of them definitively are magic. There's no question about that. However, they're all faint. The amount of magic on all of them is actually rather faint. And there's various different types of auras that are coming off of them. It's not like it's one set aura across the board. But like some of the items even seem like familiar to you. Like, for instance, that bag that everything came in. Clearly, it's transmutation. It's supposed to have be able to hold a large amount of
I have
stuff in there.
haversack on my back.
You have a haversack on your back, and you've encountered bags of holding before, but this seems weaker than those. Like, not quite as powerful as either of those things, but still has extra dimensional space on the inside. It's one of those things where, of course, you take to note, do not put this in the haversack or vice versa. Maybe I should warn the party of that. Your character, of course, would know this. This is just like Adventuring 101. And then again, everything else it comes off with magical auras, but you're not entirely sure what they are until you're able to spend more time into it. But like I said, there are a few different types of wands. No duplicates amongst them. There are a couple of things that you do find duplicates of. Like I said, there are those different various beads that you find. Some of them are like solid beads. And then you end up counting out 5 different dewdrops. You're like, huh, 5 little dewdrops here. And you can literally hold them in your hand and swirl them around. And you can even try to like make them come together as one larger dewdrop. And they don't. They actually keep separate and in their own form. It's pretty nifty. A couple of cloaks, a helmet, like I said, so on and so forth.
Okay. When everyone awakes, I will just inform them they're magical. Be careful with the bag. I'll say that I assume some of these might be to bribe orcs if we meet with them, but I think some of the others might have more practical uses. But I don't want to waste my time and energy considering we're going into a swamp. Who knows? Bad things live in swamps. I'll be entirely honest with you. I don't want to waste time on it.
This is something we should deal with when we're in safer terrain, definitely.
I'll continue carrying the items, and maybe we'll find their use later on. Thank you for your consideration.
Were they laid out when everybody got up still, or did you already neatly put them away?
I would have moved them back into slightly different places than Reich had them, but yeah.
So yeah, but so when you guys get up and are looking at the stuff, Kieran, could you do me a favor? Could you look over and you see the stuff as well? And obviously, I imagine you pick a couple of them up and put them down. You should look to check them out. Could you roll
identifies a
intelligence?
Ritual.
It is a ritual, but you had said time, and I thought you knew it was a ritual.
But if I'm asleep, I didn't know.
Just
that.
a regular intelligence save or roll?
Regular intelligence check.
Check.
It was 4 hours. Everyone was asleep.
I would probably check out the helmet. That's the only thing that interests
that's
me.
an hour and 10 minutes per casting for identify.
Really?
Yeah, because it's an hour to cast a spell, and ritual's 10 minutes, so it's an hour and 10 minutes.
It's a minute cast.
Oh, it's normally a minute for identify?
Yeah, so it
Holy
just be 10
shit,
minutes.
that's
So I could
awesome.
identify everything.
Awesome. Okay,
over the
cool.
night.
Yeah, theoretically,
I'd
you
be
could
fucking
identify.
tired. Though.
Let's assume 3 hours of actual production, and then an hour of doing other things, right? So, what's that? 3. That's 6. That's 18 items you can do. That's solid. That should cover everything. Kieran, with your intelligence check of 13, you're looking and you're. It's not like one of those things where like anything particular jumps out at you, but you're like, huh. The kind of wood that was used to craft these wands, that's not the kind of wood that you've seen so far in here. As a matter of fact, this is a special kind of wood that grows in the forests of Droam. And the helmet that was crafted, once again, it's not a metal that can be made from any forge. It was actually specifically a type of metal that is forged out of Thrain, sorry. And a couple of other things like that kind of stand out. And the reason why they stand out for you is because you specifically went over that manifest 3 times so far in the campaign. And you remember the manifest saying items like this, these kind of components coming into it. Nobody tells the ship captain everything that's going into their ship. That'd be foolish. But you have to give them some degree of understanding, unless they're paid to be quiet or ignorant, of what's going on their ship so they can prepare for it, right? And so you realize that some of these items line up with the items that were on the manifest.
Oh, okay.
Okay? And that's the components to create. Ollie, let's go to you. So...
I know everything, apparently, even though Ollie doesn't know anything.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, I imagine Ollie doesn't just know anything at all. So one of the first things that you come across that you probably would have thought was very strange was there was a magical bar of soap. It was the strangest thing. It was a magical bar of soap. However, when you identify this bar of soap, you see that it's been infused with fats that have been boiled down from fey creatures. And actually, the bar of soap itself, if it is used the correct way to properly scrub a suit of armor or a shield, that suit of armor or shield becomes enchanted in such a way that it can never be dirty, ever again.
Well, that makes sense, because they're here to get things for Warforged.
Yep. Let's see. We were talking about beads. There was 7 different beads that were a little bit harder. These that you come to find out, they're a little bit harder, and they still have a bit of a sponginess to them. They're called beads of nourishment. They actually provide you nourishment for 1 day's rations. It's just a tiny little bead. 7 of those. And the what did I say? 6 beads that look like drops of water. These are actually beads of refreshment. Taking one of these drops of water into your mouth is like drinking nice cold water. Yep, it's just like it dissolves into a nice cold cup of water into
So
your
one's
mouth.
for foodings, one's for drinkings.
Absolutely.
I need some for sleepings, please.
There's another one that you actually like a lot. There are 2 candles there that you find. These are known as candles of the deep. The flame from these candles cannot be extinguished when they immerse into water, which is amazing. They give off light and heat like a normal candle, but they will not go out when they go underwater, and they burn just as much as a normal candle would.
There were 2 of them there?
2 of them, correct. And that's
Stalboard just straight up takes one of them.
Yep. That's 4 hours per each candle. Okay. Let's see what else is there. There is a cloak that's there. That when you identify it, you come to realize that this cloak has the ability to activate it to make it start billowing around you like extreme winds are blowing by. It is. It has so much like force of winds blowing through this cloak, which is cool. You know.
That immediately when that like goes beside Kieran with a note that explains exactly what it does. So when she wakes up, that's like the first thing she sees.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool.
She's doing all this while you're asleep, so it's just like setting up as well.
And then the last one I'm going to have you identify, because that makes 18 items, and you can't do anything else at the moment. The last thing I'm going to have you identify, because I mean, would Stalbor identify one bead and assume the rest, or would he be meticulous and identify all of them?
It makes sense considering I'm doing this over the night. That's how we do it. So
Okay,
I don't mind.
no problem. So the last thing is going to be the minor, what's it called? Bag of holding, which is the same thing as a bag of holding, but half. So it has half of the dimensions.
Know how much.
Oh, that's fine.
I don't even know bag of holding. Well, I don't know the bag of holding dimensional space in the inside.
Nope, that's fine. I got it for you. I actually knew it better in the older editions. This one I don't have it memorized.
Like I don't even keep track. I don't keep track
anymore.
of the haversacks. I just kind of use head knowledge.
I used to literally, because the haversack used to have 3 different compartments. I used to keep track of all that on my character sheets with different types of icons next to which pouch it was in and whatnot. I'm an insane person. I can show that on my old character sheets.
Stalbor literally just keeps his money in it.
250 pounds is how much you can hold, which is the total of 32 cubic feet. But no matter what, it always weighs 7.5 pounds.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
And so 1 foot in diameter mouth.
Yeah, I'll let Wright keep most of it. And I'll explain the beads. Like, we should use our rations first in case they go bad or something. But in likelihood they do go bad, and occasionally things in swamps will do that to our gear. To keep a note of emergency.
Okay. Awesome.
Or if we suddenly go missing in some other realm.
Okay. Next morning, you guys wake up and have to start continuing forward with your trek. Ollie, your job here is done. Erin, you're going to have to roll for me with advantage again on your survival check.
All right.
Oh, I rolled off of that 20. That's too bad. That's okay. So, with a 19 total on your survival check, they're like, okay, berries. That's funny. Oh, that was good. It's good stuff. So, with that 19 on your survival check, you're able to not only follow along the path and doing what they're saying, you actually have the choice of 2 things, Aaron. 1, perfectly following the trail that they suggest, or 2, following the trail and keeping it within sight or knowing where you're going, but changing your trek to be slightly less uncomfortable. I mean, swamps are swamps and they're ancient things. However, what is bad today might not be as bad tomorrow because water moves and whatnot inside of a swamp. So,
I would just keep traveling on the trail, and Luca can get the fuck over himself
okay,
for his
perfect.
uncomfortableness.
Yeah, he understands that like we have to do this, but he's still being like whiny. Like,
Oh yeah, I know.
not purposefully whiny, but just
Yeah,
like, are we there yet? Because he just has no concept of why the fuck, you know?
Luca.
So, as you guys are traveling forward through here, Kieran, can you do me a favor? Could you roll for me an Arcana check, please? You have advantage because of your you.
Oh, okay. Because I'm not trained in Arcana at all.
That's okay. You have advantage because of your you.
Okay.
You are you.
I am me.
And you get nothing.
She's also,
for it.
she's also Kieran, so
You're also
Yeah.
she doesn't know anything about
Shit.
magic.
Nothing. So, all right, you continue
I would
traveling
actually-
forward through the.
While traveling, I would ask Kieran if she was aware that N is still holding on to the robes that Dane had.
What?
I'd repeat saying, "Are you aware that N is still holding on to some of the robes that Dane had?"
Oh, the equipment. I didn't realize he brought it with him, but I guess that kind of makes sense.
I just wanted you to be
Yeah.
aware. I spoke with N. I saw some things in her room that brought a couple questions to mind for me, but I saw that and I figured I'd let you know. So just so you know.
I mean, my intention was to leave it there, but a lot of those things I murdered people for, so it's probably best we bring it with us anyway.
No, yeah, I get it. I just didn't
No,
know.
you didn't know about that, by the way.
Oh, wait. You said you murdered people for?
Yeah, I murdered people for that, so I probably should bring it with us. So maybe he did that for that reason.
You murdered people for the.
They weren't good
Those?
people.
They were bad people?
They're pretty bad people.
How bad?
Pretty bad. Most of them attacked me first.
He like takes a deep breath, swallows it, doesn't really. He's like, it's fucking Kieran.
Stalbor was walking beside Kieran. Stalbor stops for a few paces and starts walking beside Luca.
Yeah. That's Luca's like wary about it, but he's like, I mean, I've only ever seen her really, truly attack bad people, I guess. So yeah, he doesn't question it further. He just lets it be known. And then he's gonna. he'll start-
I didn't stick around to find out, to be honest.
That's fair. I just didn't know if you wanted like these secrets to travel to where we're going, since it's such a dangerous place. And then like after like a couple steps, and whenever the conversation's over with, he'll start actually talking to Stalbor about the relics that he noticed. Just making small talk,
Chit-chat.
just kind of excited
Yeah.
about it. Yeah.
You notice while you're talking, like, Stalbor gets a bottle of wine out of the haversack, like, pours the last little dregs of it into the. Literally, he just walks around with a goblet, and sort of just puts the bottle back and just drinks the last of the wine very slowly while talking.
You know, Salvor, when Dane died, I often wondered if there was anything I could do to have prevented it. If you need to talk about Denton, like, you could just talk to us about it.
He actually doesn't respond.
Mm.
He like the next time he'd respond would be like, "Watch out!" That kind of quicksand stuff like that. Just talking about the traveling.
He's just gets even deeper into that hole. That's what you do when someone's depressed. You talk about their depression, Erin. That's what you do.
The thing is, it's Kieran doing that, so it's actually kind of sweet. But
Kieran's
well
like making a
intended.
solid effort.
Yeah, it's well intended.
Alright, so that's all.
I'll also add, because Scott liked the idea that Stalbor walks around with a goblet. It's probably on the outside of his haversack most of the time. It's unreachable.
Perfect.
Anyway, just that.
Okay. So, and you guys continue traveling forward for a good bit. Kieran, like I said, with your survival check, you just stay on track. You're not going to waste time. You're not going to do anything like that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so you continue making your way forward until finally you get to that point where it's time to take a break. It's time to sit down and rest for an hour, take your short rest. And why don't we just also take our break right now and come back in like 5 minutes?
Cheesy bastard.
You know. You know.
You sicken me.